Hello and welcome to Response Agility. Today I have a fabulous guest, Jeff Salzenstein. Salzenstein.
Steen, you got it.
Salzenstein. He was a top 100 tennis pro, now leadership speaker and coach. And I'm so happy to have him here today for lots of reasons. And we'll get into it. So Jeff, tell me what your intention is to have our audience get today.
Oh, gosh. The intention is for them to own their zone. Like, that's what we're going to do. Today, we're going to talk about probably some stories about my journey of how I even got to this place where I'm helping people own their zones. And when we talk about owning your zone, it's about peak performance. It's about showing up as the best version of yourself. How do we deal with the pressure and the stress and the uncertainty that we're going through, especially in 2025? How do we increase our capacity, expand our capacity to really show up as our best selves personally and professionally? And I'm very excited to dive into that. And whatever you want to ask me, I'm an open book.
Awesome. Well, first of all, what drove you? Because you were young. I mean, I see videos of you and a young, like 17 years old on the tennis tour or whatever you want to call it, circuit. What drove you as a adolescent, teenager, to compete?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, I'm definitely a late bloomer. So I grew up in Denver, Colorado. My dad was my first coach, but my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, and we were not living in the same state. He was in Missouri, I was in Colorado, but like I'm with my mom there, and I just had this insatiable drive to be great at tennis and to everything else, and probably came out of the divorce. Like, if we're going to talk about childhood adversity and things we go through, when you go through a divorce, then your lens of the world is like, how do I survive and how do I get love? So for me, finding love and being validated was being number one. And so that just led me on this journey. Again, tennis was in my blood from early age. I was a state champion at age 9 in the 10 and unders. I was a national champion at age 12. So I was on a track, to be like a tennis superstar or whatever. But there were a lot of twists and turns in the road, because when I was 15 years old, I was 5'4", 102 pounds. I could barely see over the steering wheel with my driver's permit at 15 and a half. And I dropped from number 1 in the country as a 12-year-old to number 70 in the country. And if you drop that much as a teenager, one of two things can happen. You start partying more, like going to the weekend parties after the football game and maybe even drinking. You start chasing girls, or you double down and get really serious about making a comeback. And I decided to make a comeback when I was 15 and was able to get back to the top of the national junior rankings. And then the greatest college tennis coach of all time, in your neck of the woods, I think, Stanford, they recruited me, and I fulfilled a dream of being able to go play at Stanford. But what's interesting is I was not groomed to be a pro tennis player, even though I was very good. I grew up in Colorado. I went to a public high school. I didn't play 5 hours a day. And so going to Stanford was actually the end point. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to play pro tennis. But a crazy thing happened. When I went to Stanford, I transformed, and that gave me a new possibility, a new opportunity to go try my hand at professional tennis. Yeah, time out. Exactly.
Time out. What do you mean you transformed? So what was usually when someone says transformation, there's a moment in time where you switch and you have this insight. What was that moment in time that you knew things could be different?
What's really interesting is that when I work with people, when I work individually with folks, with founders, with leaders, with athletes, with high achievers, when I do my keynotes and my workshops, we always talk about defining moments, and there are always defining moments. There are defining moments in everyone's life, and I had them early on. And when I get to college, I'm 19 years old. I finished my freshman year at Stanford. I played number 5 singles. I had started to grow a little bit. And that summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I couldn't even qualify in these professional tournaments, these low tournaments. And I made a decision to try to solve my serve, because I had one of the worst serves in college tennis. I was the kid that would just get the serve in, And then I would just scrap and claw and grind. So I had this inner kind of tenacity to find a way to win tennis matches, but I did it without a weapon. And in order to play pro tennis, you need to have a weapon. And the serve is the most important shot in tennis. So I go home that summer and I actually watched a player named Goran Ivanisevic on at Wimbledon on HBO in 1993, dating myself here. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out to the tennis court and I'm going to model Goran's serve. He has one of the best serves in the world. He's left-handed like me. And I started tinkering and modeling his motion, and something clicked that summer. And it was all almost by accident, because I didn't have video analysis. I didn't have a coach telling me what. It was an inner self-discovery. And so something clicked. I worked on it all summer. I grew a couple of inches. I put on 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. I go back to Stanford. I'm now serving 120 miles an hour. I added 20 miles an hour to my serve. And the coaches were like, "What did you do?" I was like, "I just copied Goran." So if you think about in your life, if you're listening to this podcast, like what in your life is an area for development, and what could you up level 1 or 2 levels that could literally change your life? And it changed the trajectory of my career, because instead of getting a degree from Stanford and, going into business or law or entrepreneurship, I had this 125 mile an hour serve. And now I was one of the best players in college tennis. And that gave me the idea that I could actually make something happen on the pro tour.
So thank you for that. So it wasn't an exact moment in time. It was a summer.
There was a moment on the tennis court when I modeled his serve and I'm out there with my hopper of balls. There was a moment where I hit a couple of serves in a session where something clicked. And then once it clicked, it was like, now I got to see if I can repeat it. Can I get the reps in so that it feels natural? And that's basically what happened. So it was about a 5 or 10 minute stretch where it was noticeable, like, oh my gosh, like I did this thing with my arm and I put my leg back a little further and I leaned back and I lowered my toss. And it was all based around the visual model of Goran Ivanisevic serving. And if you think about that, other thought leaders, Tony Robbins and others are big on modeling. So if you want to make a change in your life, if you want to make a change in business and you're struggling and you have a weakness or an area for development, guess what? There's someone out there that's done something that you could look at, and you don't have to copy it, but you certainly can model the behaviors, the choices, the movements, the decisions, and create success for yourself.
And the mindset.
So, it's so rare to have the curiosity. I think, at 19 years old, everyone else was on the tour, like traveling to the next tournament. And I was like, no. The definition of insanity is going to the next tournament with a crappy serve. So I was like, I'm just going to go home and I'm going to take the risk. If I don't figure it out, I'm still the same player. And if I do figure it out, then big things could happen. And so I trusted that process, kind of had that innate sense at 19 years old. And so now, I'm doing what I'm doing now, and I have so many reps of comebacks, so many reps of bouncing back from things that it's just in my DNA. And so anyone who hasn't done that before, I try to help them develop that muscle, develop that curiosity and that openness to be able to create and create transformation.
So Jeff, let's look at that. So in the spirit of, you started off today saying, especially in 2025, my experience is that we have been going through it forever, but COVID was like the first big, what the hell is going on? And then since then, I don't know that people have really recovered. So you said, yes, you had the vision as a young man and the discipline. You didn't use the word discipline, but it's discipline to do the reps. It's discipline to continue to go and hit and hit and hit and hit, or serve and serve and serve. But you also said you've been through lots and ups and downs, and that's part of your secret sauce, is this recovery and this ability to bounce back. Can you give me a short sense of, how do you know when you're in a rut, or how do you know, Jeff, know when you are trudging through and you need a breakthrough? Because some people don't know. Like for example, I had a girlfriend over this weekend, and she's dealing with some pretty big stuff. Her son has been diagnosed with cancer, and he's not been given a long time. And he's out living his life, going to Europe and traveling, and she's home doing this. And
Yeah.
we did a Joe Dispenza meditation, and afterwards she said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize that my heart was shriveled."
Mm.
And so that was her moment of wake up. Oh crap, I'm stuck. But how do you know when you're stuck? Because you're saying you're continually getting unstuck.
Well, that takes a lot to unpack, but I know that the answer has got to be as succinct as possible. So I'm going to do the best I can, put that coaching hat on, something I've been doing a long time as coaching myself as a player, and then coaching in tennis, and then transitioning into performance coaching and speaking.
Yeah.
The first step is to recognize that with any situation, whether it's COVID or cancer or the nasty email or getting cut off in traffic, the first thing to notice is what is the emotion, what is the feeling that comes up, right? And to be aware of that, just aware of it. The second and the most important thing I think, well, I don't know if it's most important, but the thing that people get tripped up on is when an event happens, it stirs up emotion or feeling in the body. Then our minds make meaning out of it, we're meaning making machines. So whereas the son who has cancer is like, I'm going to go live my best life and enjoy what I've got. That's the meaning that he's giving to having cancer, and whatever emotions coming up. He could be sitting feeling sorry for himself and have anger and grief, and he can also go live his life.
Yeah.
Other people, when they feel an emotion, they attach it to a story that they're creating in order to perpetuate and keep that going. So the simple version is you can just acknowledge all the things that are happening out there in the world, and you can actually make a choice to notice your emotions and feelings, and then actually create a story and create how you want to live. Like, I could come on the podcast today after having a pretty significant event happen in my life less than 12 hours ago. And I could be like, oh man, like that thing that happened 12 hours ago. Or I can show up with energy. And it doesn't mean I'm bypassing. It doesn't mean I'm not processing that in the background, but like, we can still like live this like full life, even when the what's hitting the fan. And how we get there is we increase the capacity to be able to handle all these things. And most people don't have the tools or the capacity or the understanding of how to go about it. And once they learn it, then they can start to practice it.
How do you work with people to increase their capacity? Because what you're talking about is resilience. And
Yes.
they, like taking a licking. They used to say in recruiting, that's where I started out. That was my formative years, 100% straight commission, and failure's not an option. So I wasn't driven by a big vision. I was driven actually by fear, which I don't recommend, but if it works for you, it works for you. Anyway,
It doesn't work in the end.
It doesn't work in the long term. No. And that's a different story for a different day. But, they used to say, if you're going to be a good recruiter, you need to be able to be hit in the head with a hammer and not say ouch, or take a licking and keep on ticking. But the truth is, we do say ouch. And how do you train people in a nutshell for resilience, not just so they can be Teflon, but so that they can keep moving in life and achieve their North Star?
Well, I'm going to get into my framework, but it first starts with a perspective. When an event happens, again, we can say, what is the lesson we can learn here? Mm-hmm. What are we meant to learn in this situation? Mm-hmm. And still feel the pain. So like, I've felt a lot of pain, a lot of emotions this year with different things that have happened in my life. And what is the lesson, and what action can you take? It's an and thing. It's not an either or. And I think people get caught up in the either or, like this bad thing happens, and then now I need to go in my shell. It's actually, this bad things happened. I feel really angry. I'm like so frustrated. Like, it's ridiculous how frustrated I'm in with that situation. What's the next best step for me? So that's just kind of an overarching view. Now, when we get into the framework that I teach, that I'm so passionate about around owning your zone. It's a simple, elegant framework that was developed from my 25 plus years of studying high performance, from all of my struggles on the pro tour and junior tennis, college tennis, and the pro tour. I had 2 career threatening injuries. I had a brother that struggled with mental health and addiction. I lost all the time on the pro tour. My record on the big tour, where they're playing the U.S. Open in a couple of weeks at the time we're recording this, my record was 16-41 on the tour. That's a lot of losing. And in tennis, you only win 50% of the points you play in a match. So you're always learning how to bounce back every 25 seconds. So the framework.
Wait, you got to say that again, because that's a great
I'll say it again.
In tennis,
Roger Federer was the number 1 player in the world years ago. Now Novak Djokovic is. Jannik Sinner is, but Djokovic was. The number 1 player in the world every year only wins 55% of all the points they play, and they're number 1. If you're 20 in the world, 20 in the world. Think about that, 20 in the world. That is like elite of the elite of the elite. You're winning 50%. If you're where I am, at 150 in the world, 120, finally breaking the top 100 after 6 years, 2 career-threatening injuries, doing it at the age of 30, alone, traveling around alone without a coach and a team. Crazy stuff. I'm winning less than 50% of the points I play. And every time you lose a point, you have 25 seconds to bounce back. So a tennis player,
you better be on your toes. You better be on your toes.
You don't have time to get in your feelings.
Yeah.
In 25 seconds. You don't have time to get in your feelings. But when you lose the match and you're feeling all that pain and you're in the hotel room at night alone, now what are you going to do with that pain? Are you going to drink? Are you going to use drugs? Are you going to go to porn? Are you going to what are you going to do that's going to sabotage and make you feel like to soothe the pain? But that's actually not the answer. Like, you have to be able to sit with it. You have to be able to move your body. You have to somatically find the things that work for you. And so you think about this, I am uniquely qualified because I've been testing this on myself, this way of being for so many years as an athlete. And that's where Own Your Zone comes in. Leaders, high achievers, people that want to be better. I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom or running $1 billion company. You have to have the fundamentals, just like an elite athlete, the fundamentals every single day locked in. And a lot of people do have the fundamentals, but what I find is that in my framework, which is here are the 3 things we focus on. Restore the body. So are we focusing on rest and recovery in our lives? Many people struggle with their sleep. Many people are not taking care of their bodies. Pro athletes have to take care of their bodies. And I would argue that leaders and high achievers have to. It's not I just use my mind for my business. For sustainability, Jeff, and longevity, you got to take care of your body.
Doesn't everybody need to take care of their body? Like,
that's what I'm saying but people don't.
So many people don't. Like, I love what you're saying about addiction, because I don't think enough people talk about it. But I do think when shit's hitting the fan, it's easy to watch Netflix all night, or to eat that whole bag of chips, or to smoke pot, or have a drink, or do whatever else. I was just watching this crazy show called White Lotus, and the guy's having a bad day, and he just automatically goes to drugs, and he could have done so many other things. So this choice to be physically healthy. And I know you know more than I know about physiology. What happens in the body? What chemicals are released in the body when you start to move it that would have us get back into, oh, I'm okay, I'm good, I have what it takes to move forward?
Well, you get the feel-good endorphins and the dopamine hits, the healthy dopamine hits when you do those things. But the one thing that I really lean into, again, is the rest and recovery, because 62% of Americans are affected by sleep disorder. That has to do with the circadian rhythm. That means you're not waking up and getting in the sunshine right away. You're not getting your feet on the ground. You're drinking alcohol at night to numb the pain. You're eating too late before bed. Like, all of these habits are in place. And what I hear a lot of times from people that aren't aware of the things that I share, they just think, well, I just don't sleep well. No. You just don't have the skills to sleep well yet. But once you start adopting the skills, you can focus on rest and recovery, because without proper rest and recovery, the best athletes in the world train so hard, but they recover harder. But we're like, leaders aren't thinking, they're not waking up going, today I need to recover harder than I worked. They're just thinking, I got to get the work done and then I can numb out later.
We live in a culture where there is absolutely no agreement for recover. There's no agreement.
Well, I'm hoping to help us create more agreement, because
yeah.
I do my workshops and I go in and I show that I have them take a quick little sleep quiz. Like, it's not scientific. It's one that I created to get actually the scores that I want. So let's just put it out there. But it's a lot about like, okay, is the cell phone with you before bed? Are you drinking X amount per night? Are you doing breathing exercises? And what happens is when these leaders take these quiz, they realize they have low sleep hygiene, and it gives them ideas. I've had people say, I didn't even know there was a list of things you could do at night to improve your sleep. And as soon as they see the list, they're like, oh, I could do a couple of these things. It's not that hard. So it just changes and it shifts things. So we got to move the body. We got to nourish the body. We've got to rest and recover because we need to wake up every day thinking like we are an elite athlete in order to have that longevity, that health, and that sustainability. And what also people don't make the connection on the physical part, if you're not sleeping well, your mental and emotional health will suffer. And we're talking about the mental health crisis these days. Well, guess what? It would be solved if people were sleeping amazing. I'm telling you, like, if people just slept well, that would be a huge leverage point to shift mental and emotional health. So let me get to the second and the third pillars, or the third zone. So the first zone is restore the body. The second zone is rewire the mind. And we know what that's about. It's like becoming aware of your thoughts, how you communicate, and becoming a master at communication, becoming a master at self-talk, the stories you tell yourself and you tell others. That's rewire the mind. And that is a skill as well. And that is what the best athletes in the world do. When Novak Djokovic loses a point, he's not saying you suck, you're terrible. He's probably getting angry, but he's also saying, okay, what do I have to do next? I got to get it to the guy's forehand or the backhand or whatever. We need to do that in life. And most people are not doing that at the level that they could. And that's where I come in, because I'm like, hey, look at that limiting belief. Look at that. What's holding you back there as a CEO? What's the imposter syndrome that you have as a leader? And then we start to work on it, right? And then the last thing, the third zone, that was zone 2. Zone 3 is reconnect the heart. And what reconnect the heart means is, how do we regulate our nervous system? How do we start to get into our body and notice our emotions? How do we do the breath work that can help us decrease the cortisol and adrenaline that's in our bodies? And so simple breathing techniques can help us get there. And so if you pull all of this together, these insights, these perspectives, how we see the world, and you work on your rest and recovery, you restore the body, you rewire the mind, and you reconnect the heart, you're 90% there. You're 95%. Those are the fundamentals. And so that's what I do. I teach fundamentals, and I help people see the world through a different lens. But it's hard to see the world through a different lens if you're always stressed out and burned out. Your lens is going to be narrow. So the way we widen it is we sleep better, we eat better, we move better. We get off the alcohol, or we cut way back on it. We change our stories and our thinking. We start breathing more. We start moving our body more and regulating our nervous system. And now our lens is super wide and we can see the full picture.
So why do you think, I mean, this is you're really talking about 3 components of neuroplasticity, which is retraining the brain in the world of neuroscience. But grandma told us all of that. Eat well, sleep well, move your body. Like, we all fundamentally know the rules of how to live a healthy life. But why don't people indoctrinate habits like those atomic habits into their life? As a, you work with CEOs and you work with VIPs, even mom VIPs. Why is this hidden from their view? What's the barrier for people?
So the first thing I'll say is, let me acknowledge the top 1%ers, the top 0.1%ers. Even like, if we break down these, I always have them fill out a scorecard with the 3 areas. They're probably doing well in maybe one of the areas. It's pretty rare they're doing really well when I show like start leaning in two out of the three. I mean, the elite of the elite that are dialed in, this is like really thin, but at least one of the areas. So let's just acknowledge that some people, if they're running a company, they're probably doing something with their mind to be able to create something special, right? And there are leaders that can emotionally regulate. This is not a black and white thing. But just like a tennis player, especially like as you get up, if you start rising the ranks, you will not rise the ranks. You will not get to the top of the game if you have a weakness, if you have something holding you back, if you have a weak backhand, if you don't have a good low volley, your opponent will find that. And I look at it similarly because of my experience in tennis and developing strengths and understanding areas for development. So everyone has in one of those zones probably an area for development. Like they might be good with their mind, they might be able to regulate, but they're not sleeping well. Or they may be sleeping really well and they have a good mindset, but they tend to get emotional and, struggle with the capacity there. So I just want to point out that is really important to have that awareness.
You know what, actually, in UPW, I don't think Tony says this anymore because now he has Sage in his life to like knock on the door of, not everybody's a machine. But he used to say you can sleep when you die. And,
yeah, I'm the opposite.
Landmark Education used to say you could sleep when you die. And that's such BS.
Yeah. Now, okay. I remember. Okay. So I wanted to first acknowledge that people are doing some good things, but why are they not really stepping up the level that they could? I'm going to call it one word: distraction. Like all these things are pulling us off. Like imagine if we woke up in a world and the first thing we saw on Instagram was, hey, remember your meditation today. Remember to do your breathing. If we turned on Fox News or we turned on CNN and they were like, hey, how many hours of sleep did you get today? And did you tell a different story today? Right? Like if we were
you can do that if you use your iPhone reminders and you don't turn on the news and you don't watch Fox News and you don't watch Prime Video.
But exactly,
many people would say that's boring.
That takes a lot of discipline and work to do that. So the world is set up to pull us off of our game and off of our zone, to distract us, to make us weak, to make us soft. And so it's the souls that are on this path to be like, okay, I have a calling to be great at what I do. And then I have a calling to be able to serve the world and teach these principles and to inspire. Then we're going to get more people to do it. And it's incredible to have this opportunity, to find in my second season of life, to find that, I wasn't just playing pro tennis for myself. Like there's people that played pro tennis and they still might be frustrated that they didn't do as well. And now they're a little bit bitter or whatever. It didn't work out. And I'm like, I just grinded for 20 years and played 10 years on the tour and barely made a living because I was 100 in the world and not 50 in the world. Instead of being bitter about it, I was like, all of those experiences allow me to hold space and be there and give strategies and support and ask questions. It's an amazing, again, like the way that I frame it is like all of my pain, all of my suffering, all of my heartache is the reason why we're on this podcast right now. The reason why I get to coach amazing people, the reason why I get to get on stage is because I'm uniquely qualified to make a difference in the world.
So Jeff, if somebody wants to take your survey, even though it's for you, but let's say I want to know, hey, what am I better at? Restoring, rewiring, or reconnecting? Is there a link that we can put?
Yeah, good question. So that little thing that I mentioned is literally, it's a 30-second. I probably should design one, right? You're giving me the inspiration
Just
to do
use
it.
Score app.
Yeah.
Just
so right now I go in the workshop and at the very beginning, I just say on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing with restore the body, rewire the mind, and add up the 3 numbers? And that's all I'm doing right now. So you've given me an idea that I could develop an entire quiz around the 3 sections and offer that. So thank you for that.
I want to take that quiz. I think I would do pretty good.
Okay, I'll develop it. But when I work with clients, I send them a private custom, questionnaire with like deep questions about like, what they're struggling with, what they want to change in the next 90 days, what they want to create, how they're sleeping, what they're taking, what they're not, and so it gives me a nice, besides, a call where I get really connected with them and understand what they want to do, I get to see what people are struggling with. And what's really interesting is that I customize all the one-on-one stuff I do. Everything's unique. At the same time, most of us have similar patterns we're struggling with. And it's the same thing in tennis. Like I see the same patterns. So I'm pretty good at pattern recognition. And I think that's an important quality as a coach, to be able to see the patterns and help people see the patterns and give them a game plan to make change.
This self-awareness piece, because if somebody
Yes.
doesn't know and they don't know and they don't know that they don't know, they just have the programming that work is hard, leadership is hard. This is what it looks like to be an executive. How do they even know they need you? I mean, do they crash and burn? Does their company lose a major client? Like, how do they know, oh, I need Jeff right now? And that goes for any coaching at all, but you're the one on the podcast right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a me thing. This is what's going on here. Well, one, what you described is a leader that has a fixed mindset. That's just how they see it. So anyone that has a fixed mindset is not going to find me. They're not going to find me. They're not going to come into my universe.
You probably don't want them to find you.
No, because my best clients are the ones that are like, so I'll give you an example. I was hired by a founder a month and a half ago, and we were at an event called the Conscious Entrepreneur Summit. 250 people in the room. Do you think those people have fixed mindsets? I mean, yes, in some areas, maybe, but in general, they have a growth mindset. So we're in a room and this woman gets a spreadsheet of all the attendees with their name, their website, and what they do. First of all, she's a top 1%, 0.1%, because I bet she was the only one in the room. She had her assistant get all the attendees so that she had on a spreadsheet. And she went down and she was looking for a coach for a year, and she has 2 coaching certifications. So she's like, I'm like going to be very discerning about who I hire. So she has this list, and not everyone in the room are coaches. So she just wanted to know who the room, and she gets to my line. It says Jeff Salzenstein, performance coach, own your zone. She's like, ooh, own your zone. I want to own my zone. Former top 100 world tennis player. Then she goes to LinkedIn. She goes to my website, jeffsalzenstein.com. And on day 2, when we took a break, I'm walking outside. I don't even know this woman exists at the time. I'm walking outside to get on the grass to ground myself at a break. And I hear this woman chasing after me. And I'm like, hey, and she's like, you're going to be my coach. I was like, okay, tell me more. Like that is like the law of attraction right there. And she's literally the most amazing client. Amazing. And so You got to have a growth mindset. You got to be open-minded. You got to be willing to do the work. And those people show up in your life. So someone who doesn't have the self-awareness, you ask that question. And I say this all the time, and I've had this happen too. The opposite of, like, I was supposed to work with this woman wanted me to work with her husband around moving to an alcohol-free lifestyle. And my alcohol-free lifestyle is around, it's a coaching program to help people. It's not about necessarily going to AA or saying you're an addict, none of that stuff. It's more like, this is a behavior. Is it possible to shift it without those things? And, but the husband, he doesn't want to stop. Like, he's not the one that wants to change.
Right.
So I never even talked to him. He's never going to come into my field. Like, it's just not going to happen. And what's going to happen is he's either going to get cancer, heart disease, diabetes, something serious is going to happen with his health. I'm not saying it's going to, but like, for him to wake up and say, I need help,
the change. It's interesting that you say that. I had my worst customer experience of my life is the board told me that they wanted me to work with this CEO to change her. She said she wanted to do the work because she didn't want to be fired, but she didn't want to do the work.
No.
And I think that's the unfortunate thing about marriage, because it's like, till death do us part. But when I married you, you weren't an alcoholic, and now you are, and you want to stay that way. So that's hard.
Yeah. And so it's a serious health condition. It's getting a divorce, right? What's the third one? Oh, it's going bankrupt. It's losing your business. It's getting fired. If one of those three things happens, then someone's going to say, I got to make a change. The people that don't
Hitting
wait that
bottom.
long, that make the change, but they make the change before it gets to that point. Those are the people that are like going to change the world. Like, well, you can change the world after you go through those things and get the coach or make the change. But the amount of pain and suffering people go through to get to that place, I don't advise it. Like, I think if you have a growth mindset, I think you should be like, you know what, things are pretty good. I'm struggling with things, but I didn't lose my business, and I'm not losing my husband or my wife, and I don't have cancer. So I'm actually going to wake up and like hire someone, because again, let's take it back to athletes. Like, that's my jam, right? We can make the elite athletes and leaders. There's a huge overlap. Do you think the San Francisco 49ers or the Denver Broncos, the owner of the team, do you think they'd say, hey guys, you just go out on the field today and play. We're not going to have any coaches for you. We're just going to have you guys go figure it out there. How do you think they would do against another team that has coaches? Or if the Golden State Warriors or the Denver Nuggets, they were like, they just rolled the ball out and said, there's no coaching. No coaching. You're on your own. Go practice the way. It's not going to happen.
All right.
Why doesn't every leader have a coach?
Well, I think
every leader.
I think there's a lot of ego involved, and they here. All right. I want to say one thing. Why doesn't a leader have a coach? I remember before I had the bag ripped off my head of this world, that being a high achiever, you have to do this. I had a fixed mindset, and I was young, and I thought, well, I don't want to do anything to curse my success. I don't want to do anything to change my mojo. And then I did this 3-day large group self-awareness program, and it was like the bag was ripped off my head, and I saw how life could actually be even better than life was. And I would say I never lost my mojo, but I did shift this drive and this nails gripped into my version of reality. But mine was a coach actually coming in, spending 2 days in my business and saying, which one of your parents was the alcoholic? Yeah. And I was like, how dare you? Well, it was my father. And he said, and I said, wow, how did you know? And he said, it's not hard. I can see patterns. Like you said, Jeff, I can see patterns. And I think all good coaches have pattern recognition now, because there aren't that many patterns. I think there's like 20, and you know when someone has one because they keep doing the same thing over and over again. But just to close out, if I can grab on to restore, rewire, or reconnect, what is the easiest access for a tough mind? Because all of the people you're talking about, athletes, high achievers, CEOs, tough-minded people, because it's the tough mind that has them keep going. What's the easiest thing to reach out for a tough mind who's still open? Is it restoring the body, rewiring the mind, or reconnecting to the heart?
Well, here's what's, I believe, selfishly, what I believe is beautiful about this framework is that when I know I'm onto something, because when I go do a workshop, I'm about to do 3 in Detroit with 12 CEOs in the room each day. And then the third one's going to be a retreat where the spouses are in the room. So there's going to be 30 in the room, which is awesome, because now you get like breakouts with like the partnerships, and like we're talking common language. Inevitably, when I get to the end, and this is the same for keynotes too, I'm big on practical takeaways. Remember, I'm a coach at heart. I'm not like a sage on the stage and like go out there in the world and conquer. No, I want people to walk away and say, if you spend a minute or 2 a day on this thing, you can start to get a shift. And what I feel happens is I go into a room, there's 12 CEOs, there are varying levels of openness, right? Some people are advanced at things. Some people are just starting. Some people are closed-minded. When we do practical takeaways at the end, what did you get out of it? What changes you're going to make? It's usually divided into thirds every time. A third say, I got to improve my sleep. I'm going to start taking magnesium. I'm going to take magnesium at night. That's an easy thing someone could start doing, is take magnesium. I had a guy at a workshop a couple of weeks ago. I saw him at a pickleball event. We did a pickleball networking event 3 weeks after this event. I didn't know this was going to happen. He walked up to me and he's like, Jeff, I've cut my alcohol by 90%.
Wow.
Since since that workshop. So 1/3 sleep and rest and recovery. And in that, it could be magnesium. It could be cutting back on alcohol in half. It could be doing breathing exercises before bed. The other third is rewire the mind. They start to change their limiting belief, like I'm not a good leader. People are going to figure out I suck at leading, to I'm working on getting better as a leader. They can do that in 1 minute. They can reframe something in 1 minute. And then the third is, hey, you know what? I kind of have a short fuse. I'm getting impatient. I'm a little hard on my kid at home. I'm going to breathe for 1 minute. I'm going to put my hand on my heart or on my belly, and I'm going to slow my breath down. 5 breaths a minute. Yeah, 5 to 6 breaths a minute. That's where we find flow state. So it's about 10 seconds, inhale, exhale. I do it for 1 minute, 3 minutes, and that can change your perspective and your state alone. And it's always 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's customize it. You're the CEO. It's not just one thing. Yeah. It's choose your own adventure. It's
so to
choose
recap,
your own adventure.
Being in the zone, living in the zone, playing in the zone, restore the body, rewire the mind, and reconnect the heart. Thank you, Jeff Salzenstein. We will have the website at the bottom of this screen, and contact, and someday a survey.
Yeah. And if you ever want to do a part 2, there's so much to unpack around my brother and the mental health and addiction, and more stories to share. I know it could be down the road, but just know that I am available to serve. And if I can help one person change their lives, someone who's really struggling or someone who's at a high level that just wants to be better, I'm here for it. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I will definitely, we will certainly have you back. Thank you.